Alright, here's a quick informational instructional about how to use power effectively within a settlement. So what I've done is I've set up a little experiment. We're on the cul-de-sac edge of Sanctuary where we don't have any power running. It's all just desolate, wrecked houses that have been stripped of anything of real value. There's our nearest generator up there, the windmill up on the roof. And I wanted to set up an experiment that was far enough away as to not have any interference from our current power grid. So I set up a long daisy chain of wiring from our tall pylon to our water purifier up to a smaller sort of rigged pylon, and then a second rigged pylon, and then to this little electric laboratory. Oh, there's Preston. He's going to want to know what's going on. Okay, well, so anyways, here what we have is our laboratory, and what I've set up is a few elements. We can see that here's all the necessary parts of an electrical system, plus some wingdings. We've got our conduit lines with a light junction that indicates whether power is running through that junction, going to a conduit switch. Really, he knows I'm filming. To another junction. This one is off because the switch is not activated, and this one goes to a power radiator off of a conduit. Here's a regular old table lamp, and then I've got here a red wall light and a strobe light, just a few, about a meter away from it. There's our setup. So we can see that clearly power is running from this pylon to this unit here. All of these elements here are considered conduit elements, not only because there's visible conduit, but because it's basically in the, I'll open up the menu here, it's in the conduit category. Like if you go to power, you've got generators, connectors, switches, and conduits. I have a wall conduit and a floor conduit section and lighting here. If it's a connector, such as these power pylons, then it's a category of energy. If it's a conduit, and if it's in the conduit section, which includes these radiators, which includes piping, which includes all of the elements that sort of snap into each other as piping, then it's considered a different type of power element, a conduit element. And different things will be powered up by proximity to different types of power elements. I'm going to demonstrate that for you right now. So this is all conduit, which means that when this doesn't radiate energy on its own. Nothing in conduits radiates energy except for by moving it along pipes, hollow tubes, until it gets to one of these power radiators, which is plugged into a conduit line. This doesn't radiate energy unless, of course, it's on. Let's prove that by turning this on. Boom. Now you see it's glowing, and the light, a little desk lamp, is also glowing. It's getting energy directly from that radiator there, the conduit radiator. If I turn it off, that light's not getting any energy, and so it turns off too. If I move the light just a bit, let me move it down on the sidewalk, and we can see what the range of a radiant. You see how my light's lit even when I'm moving it. It's nice to do this at night. Let's move it down the sidewalk here to about here. Right? There we go. So at this distance here, I can still get power from it. I'm feeding off of that, and then it's starting to flicker, and there we go. At this distance, it's no good anymore. So one of those radiant, the power floor radiator or conduit radiator, has a proximal range of, I want to say about 5 meters. Yeah, say about 5 meters. We're going to move this back into range just to double prove our experiment. You see it's on, and let's take a look at that light now, shall we? Blue. Yeah. So it's still feeding off of that, and this is its power range. So that's how those work. But you'll notice that even when that is on, it's not providing any energy to the wall light or the strobe light. Why is that? I do not know. They require a different type of power, these ones here. This one will feed off the radiant. These ones have to be actually near a real power, like a different type of power supply, but you can't wire them in. I don't believe so. Let me see. I'll just prove to test, but there's no wiring in. Let me see. Can you? Yeah, there's no ability to wire it in. You know, because you'd have space attached wire. There's no attaching of the wire. It says it does require power though, and it is not getting power from this conduit floor power radiator. I'll tell you what it is getting power from though. They can get power directly from generators, I believe, or power pylons. So anything in the connector, let me open that up again, just anything in the connector category, pylons and these wall connectors. There's a couple of different types of wall connectors. There's wall connectors as well. But this type, anything in the connector category, I think also give off a radiant energy. I'm certain of it, and I'll prove it. And that is the only thing that will supply certain types of electrical pieces. Other types will be able to feed off of these radiators. Probably smaller devices or different internal circuitry. Not really sure. So you'll have to do some experimentation to see which ones work and which ones don't, with which type of power. But here we go. You can see that this light is being powered by that floor radiator. I'm going to go ahead and shut that off. Now the light's not functioning. But if I take that, oh God, really kind of makes himself a nuisance, doesn't he? I mean, whatever. So if I take that light and I move it closer to that power pylon, though, let's do that, shall we? There we go. Right about here is the distance. Or if I move it out of the range of the pylon, like here, on, here, off, here, on, and let's just set it there. So the power pylons obviously have a longer range. I'd say that range is somewhere more in the ballpark of 9 or 10 meters. So it's about twice the range of one of these power radiators off of the conduit, twice the range, and still provides power to anything that requires juice. It's exactly at that range there. And I like to do this at night once again because then you can very clearly see if something's on or off. Another way of being able to do this, I think I can just lift it up. No. Oh, I can't. Yeah, anyway, so we can see clearly that this power is coming from this pylon post here, not coming from that there. And so we can say, well, why isn't this lighting up the strobe light and the wall light? Well, that's just because it's just a matter of proximity. We can see that our distance is right there, and this is probably just outside of there. So what we'll do is we'll move this just a little bit to prove this. We'll take this, keep an eye on those lights in the atrium there. So here's the pylon. We're going to select it. We're going to move it forward just about 2 feet. There we go. Now it's powering up the strobe light because it's exactly inside of that threshold range. Now the little red light on the wall is another, meter away. Let's just move a little closer. And boom, there's the red light there and the strobe. So now it's powering up them both. If I put it here, chances are I'm just outside of the range, so that light that's behind me is no longer lit. Huh? So I'd have to move this light a bit more too. Very simple and very easy. Let's just move it closer. So now that's how power systems work in a nutshell. Have fun and good luck. This should prevent you from having so many wires everywhere. yeah, just making a mess of things. It's all about where you put your pylons, where you have your generators, and the judicious use of these radiators if you're using a lot of conduit. If you're not using a lot of conduit, just use these bad boys instead. You can have one of these like right outside of a building, and that should provide enough energy to about, like I said, about 10 meters to anything inside the building that requires power. Bingo bango.